Greetings all. I'm Laura Leader with Law Office Solution, and I have a tip today on page numbering. This is in response to an excellent question that someone asked me on my YouTube channel, and I thought it would be much easier to show you rather than try to just explain it in words. And what this person wants to do is have page numbering where it says, page X of Y, where you have the page number and the number of pages throughout the document, but they don't want page numbering on the first page, and so the second page would start at 1, which they could do, no problem, but then when they put the number of pages field in, it's giving them a number that's too high. Makes sense, right? If the number of pages are really one more than my page number is going to be. So how do we do this? Well, there are two ways I can think of to accomplish this, and I will show you both. I'm going to start with my preferred method, and that is to set the page numbering up and do a little magic with some fields. So what I'm going to do is just double click to get into the footer here. Now the first thing is we don't want any page numbering on the title page. So I will go to my header footer tools design ribbon, which magically appeared when I just double clicked to get into the footer, and I will turn on different first page. What happens now, let me drop my zoom down for you, is there is a separate header and footer for the first page of the document, and then the primary header and footer, the one for every other page, starts on the second page. So I'll put my page numbering in here. So I will say page of, and let me zoom in on this a little bit for you guys, insert page number. I could go to the insert menu to get the page number, but I was already on the header footer tools design ribbon, which has page number over here. So I'm just going to stick with this probably. So insert page number. Now the first thing I want to tell you about page numbers, kind of an aside, is you typically want to avoid this top of the page, bottom of the page. And the reason for that is, while this may look innocent enough, oh look, here's what I want. Page number, bottom of the page, centered. Look what happens when I choose that. See how I had other text in here? These are quick parts and they replace the entire header or footer when you click them. So I just lost all my other text. Now I'll undo that, and I'll show you what I would do instead. I always go to current position, and I should mention I get my cursor where I want the page number first. Then I go to current position, plain number, and just drop that puppy in. Okay, now do not be alarmed by the fact that it says page 2. What we want to do is tell the second page to be 1. So we have a title page, so really, if you think about it, this is page 0. And then this is going to be page 1. So I'm going to go into my page number formatting, which I can get to from the same place, page number, format page numbers. And I will just tell it to start numbering at 0. So what it's doing is words numbering is for the entire section. So this is all one section, the document. So 0 is now the first page, but we don't see the page number, so we don't see a 0. And then this is now page 1, the second page. So very good, that took care of that. Now, the number of pages. This is a field, and you can get that from Insert, Quick Parts, Field. And these are words fields. Now I happen to know that it is called num pages just because I'm the Microsoft Word lady and I work with this stuff all the time. So I just knew that. But you could look through all the fields if you didn't know. And if you're not finding it under the categories here are different, you can limit these to different categories. So this would be information about the document, right? The number of pages of the document. So I could also have found it here. Or I would have just gone on the internet and Googled it. So we've got the num pages field, and I just click that. Now this appears. I will tell it I want it to look like the Arabic 1, 2, 3, and I don't care, it's not money or anything like that, so I don't need any of this fancy formatting. I'm happy. I say okay, and it popped the field in. Now I'm almost there. My problem is that when we get to the very end of the document, it says page 4 of 5 because this does not know that it should actually be one less than the number of pages. So really what I want here is a field that says number of pages minus 1. Now I just typed that in. Obviously that's not going to work, but we can put this into a field and then it magically will work. And the way you do that is you can either insert a formula field and then put it in it. I'll show you where that is. Insert quick parts field. If you look at all, the very top one is formula, and it's at the top alphabetically because it starts with an equal sign. So I could use this formula field, and I'll do this right now just to show you. I can't put the page number field in here though, so I'm going to just put a little X for where it will be, and then I'll say, I could type -1 in here, or I could type it later. I'll show you. Put this, say OK. Now it's not happy because that didn't make any sense to it, but if I reveal the code behind my codes, Alt F9 on the keyboard, Alt F9 toggles you between seeing the result of fields, Alt F9, and what's actually in them. And you can see here, this is what I just put in, equals X minus 1. And then this other field though right here is the number of pages, right? So I could just cut this and paste it in here. I'm going to press Alt F9 again so you can see this a little more like the actual page number. I'm just going to grab that. Control X on the keyboard is cut, or I guess I could use the actual button so you can see what I'm doing. And I'll delete the -1. Now if I press Alt F9 again, get back in here, I'm just going to replace this little X, Control V is paste, or I could have used the paste button to put that num pages field inside of it. Now I'm going to press Alt F9 again to toggle back, and voila, it is showing me the number of pages -1. Now what I could have also have done if I didn't want to insert that whole field, let me just undo a couple times to get us back where we were. Here I have the number of pages 5 minus 1. Well, in Word, you can insert a field anytime by pressing on the keyboard, pressing Control F9. So Control F9 is insert field. Now it's just an empty field, but I know because I just found out that the formula field is just equals and then whatever you want. Like I could do 5 times 2, the asterisk is times, by the way, to the computer, and I would get 10. But what I really want is the number of pages minus 1. So I'm just going to cut and paste that where I want it. And by the way, you may notice that all my fields are shaded gray. That's a Word setting. They're not going to print gray, but I like to have that setting turned on so that anytime I'm looking at a document, if there's a field, I know that it's a field. But by default, your Microsoft Word will only turn them gray when you click on them. So it's a setting under Word settings. Okay, cut, and we'll go after that equal sign and paste. There it is. Now, this time, I didn't press Alt F9. Notice that my page 1 doesn't show the curly brackets. I just did the Control F9 that inserts a field. And so now all I really need to do is update this. I don't need to press Alt F9 because that will toggle me the wrong way. And you can update it by either with your cursor on it pressing F9 on the keyboard, or if you don't remember that, right click it, then choose Update Field. So you may notice that F9 is kind of the keystroke that goes with fields. You've got Alt F9 to toggle between showing the codes and what's in them. Control F9 to insert an empty field if you want to type your own field codes into it, if you know what to put. Or F9, if I select stuff and press F9, it updates it. And then as long as I'm discussing this slightly irrelevant information at this time, You can also turn a field into text with Control-Shift F9. Notice I selected this and see how they're shaded gray because they're fields. Control-Shift F9 turns it into text. Well, you probably don't want to do that to your page numbering, but sometimes people want to do that to a table of contents, table of authorities, different things that they don't want updating and changing on them. Undo. I just press Control Z on the keyboard, or undo. Okay, so I told you there were two ways to do this. Let's talk about the second method. The second method involves breaking the document into two sections and then using the section pages field. So let me turn show hide on. On the home ribbon over in your paragraph group, you have this show hide button that will show you where you have non-breaking characters, or I'm sorry, non-printing characters and whatnot, like tabs, hard returns, page breaks, etc. And you can see that I just have a page break here. Well, what I want to do is break this document into two sections. So the title page will be the first section, and then where the text starts will be the second section. And the reason I want to do that is I can do different formatting and page numbering setup and whatnot for different sections. So here from the page break, I'm just going to delete this and we're going to replace this with a section break. And I always want to go to Insert Section Break, but au contraire, they are on page layout if you've got Word 2007 or newer, which I'm using 2007 today. I had it handy. So page layout breaks, and what I'm going to insert, where my cursor is what's called a next page section break. It's really like a combination of breaking the document into two sections so we can have different headers and footers, different page layout formatting like margins, portrait or landscape, all that type of formatting is stored in the document section. So I want to break it into two sections so I can do something different with the second section. And then I also want all the text to start on the next page. So I'm going to choose the next page section break, and you will see what it did was it put a section break, next page, right after my title where I have my cursor, pushing everything to the next page and breaking the document into two sections. Just push that down a little. Let me left align this just so you can kind of see it stretch across the page. And then down here, I don't really want this extra hard return. I'll delete that. Okay. Now we have two sections. I'm going to turn show hide back off. La la la. And let's fix this up the way we want it. I'll start by getting into the footer on page 1. Just double clicked on top of the text. And we don't want anything in the footer here of section 1. However, before I start deleting this text out of here, let me navigate forward. I'm on my header footer design ribbon and I can go to the next section with this little button right here. And notice that in section 2, the nefarious, same as previous, is turned on. That means that anything I type in section 2 for the footer is going to also appear in section 1. And if I were to delete everything from section 1 with that setting turned on, it's deleting it from section 2. Undo. So before I do anything, I want to turn off same as previous. Now, some of my followers, I know you have our template and macro package, and we have a macro that takes care of all this for you, where it will turn the same as previous off and put the section break in and pick the page numbering. But for those of you who are just wanting to do it through Microsoft Word, on the header footer design ribbon, we have a button. Let me get down here, link to previous. And if it's orange, it's on, and plus you see this. I'll just click to turn it off. That's gone. Now I can do whatever I want to either of these and they won't affect each other. So I'll go back to the previous and delete this. Goodbye. Go forward, and here we are. Everything's just the way we left it. So we know we want the page number right here. That's easy enough. Page number, current position, plain number. Now what we want here is the number of pages in this section of the document. That is Insert, Quick Parts, Field, once again, Okay, we want the field section pages. This one is actually under numbering. It's a type of numbering field, so I could also find it under numbering. Section pages, and I want to be the Arabic 1, 2, 3, choose OK, and there it is, the number of pages in this section of the document. Now I have one dilemma still. This says page 2 of 4, and I want it to be 1. So in this case, I'm going to go on my header footer design ribbon back to page number, format page number, and I will tell it for this section of the document, don't continue. So what it was doing is it was picking up where the last section left off. I want it to start over at 1. And that makes me happy, very happy. And so there you have it. Now I mentioned that I prefer to use the first method. Some of you may not like that because you're dealing with the formula and you may not be real comfortable working with fields, so it may actually seem more confusing than the section break method. So whichever you prefer, go for it. But the reason, I'll tell you the reason I prefer it is very simple. It's just that I work with a lot of people who are using Word to get their work done, but they have never really been trained in Word. They don't even know what a section break is. And a lot of them aren't even really aware of the show hide, or if they are aware, they're like, oh, I don't like that, stop it, make it go away. So these section breaks are necessary in documents for different things. But if they're not absolutely necessary, I try to avoid them just because some people won't even know they're there. And then they end up copying and pasting stuff that includes the section break or deleting the section break, and all of a sudden headers and footers and page numbering is jumping all over, and they're just going crazy. So if you share your document with anyone else, or if you're not real comfortable with those, I just like to avoid them. And with that, I bid you adieu.